Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, November 12, 2025, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I am here in Bermuda for the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. It starts tomorrow, and so lots to talk about, and we'll be sharing with you as well. Folks, the nation is on the edge tonight as the U.S. House is less than an hour away from a decisive vote that could end the longest government shutdown in U.S. history. We'll go live to the White House, to the House, tell you what's going on. After 50 days of waiting, Adelita Grijalva is finally sworn in, making history. It took Speaker Mike Johnson long enough. Newly released emails link the twice impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein. No shock. And one of them says, Epstein says, Trump knew about the girls. That's why they didn't want her sworn in. A federal judge in Illinois has ordered the release of hundreds of individuals detained by ICE because their arrests were potentially unlawful and in violation of a federal court order. In tonight's Tech Talk, it's Black Love meets AI. Upfront Love uses artificial intelligence to help people stop swiping and start marrying. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time. And it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
The longest government shutdown in U.S. history could come to an end tonight if the House approves a funding package and sends it to the twice-impeached, criminally convicted felon-in-chief Donald Trump for signature. The lower chamber is returning for the first time since September 19th and is set to vote on final passage in just about an hour. House Speaker Mike Johnson says the vote will reopen the government.
We believe the long national nightmare will be over tonight. It was completely and utterly foolish and pointless in the end, as we said all along. I just want to apologize to any Americans who are out there who still have flight cancellations or delays today. I want to apologize to the many American families who were made to go hungry over the last several weeks, our troops and other federal employees who are wondering where their next paycheck would come from. All of that's on the Democrats. Just never forget, they voted 15 times between the House and the Senate to close your government. And the Republicans tried every single day of the shutdown to open it, and we voted 15 times to do that. They have a lot to answer for, and I just want to say that we're very optimistic about the vote tally tonight. We think this is going to happen, and we're sorry that it took this long. So Republicans are going to deliver for the people. We're ready to get back to our legislative agenda. We have a very aggressive calendar for the remainder of this year. There'll be some long days and nights here, some long working weeks, but we will get this thing back on track.
Well, you haven't been working, so don't be complaining about some long days. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says Democrats remain opposed to the MAGA spending bill that will gut health care, impacting millions of Americans.
House Democrats are here on the Capitol steps to reiterate our strong opposition to this spending bill because it fails to address the Republican health care crisis and it fails to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. House Democrats will continue to support our men and women in uniform. We will continue to support hardworking federal employees. We will continue to support our law enforcement personnel. House Democrats will continue to support our air traffic controllers. We will continue to support our TSA agents. We will continue to support our civil servants who have been under attack since day one of the Trump administration. But we cannot support the Republican effort to gut the health care of the American people. Today, House Democrats will introduce legislation to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits for 3 years to make sure that tens of millions of Americans don't experience dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. We believe that working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans deserve the same level of certainty that Republicans always provide to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. The same level of certainty. And so we're calling upon our Republican colleagues to join us and extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. And we will be working hard today, tomorrow, and throughout the balance of this year to make sure that those Affordable Care Act tax credits are extended. Now, Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They own the mess that has been created in the United States of America. They own it. In a few hours, we will convene on the House floor. And our message to the American people is no matter what happens on the floor later on today, our promise to you remains the same. House Democrats will continue to fight to make your life more affordable. House Democrats will continue the fight to address the Republican health care crisis, and House Democrats will fight to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. This fight is not over. We're just getting started.
All right, folks, my panel, Rebecca Carruthers, President and CEO of Fair Election Center out of D.C., Dr. Zachary Kirk, educator and content creator, Dr. Larry J. Walker, Associate Professor, University of Central Florida, will be joining us as well. So glad to have all three of y'all here, so let's get right to it. Rebecca, listen, Republicans are going to pass this. We already know this. They are going to gut health care. We know this as well. Regardless of this stupid-ass promise that Senator Dick Durbin said Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune gave him to take it up for a vote, they cut it before they're going to they're not going to reinstate these subsidies again. So let's just be real clear about what's going to happen. People need to simply prepare themselves for their health care premiums skyrocketing, and the people who should get the blame for it are Donald Trump and Republican House and Senate members. Period. Full stop.
Roland, back in 2009, I worked on Capitol Hill. I worked for Congressman John Dingell, and one of the pieces of policy that I worked on was the Affordable Care Act. What's interesting to point out, the Affordable Care Act, the way it is enacted now, is actually Republican legislation. When I think about when then Governor Mitt Romney in Massachusetts had Romney Care, which also had subsidies payments to make sure that people could have affordable premiums. At the time, there was a lot of fighting in the Democratic caucus because, quite frankly, there was a push led by the late Representative John Conyers to have single payer, i.e. Medicare for all. But instead, the Obama White House decided to negotiate with some of the Democrats on the Hill and negotiate among themselves because, unfortunately, at the time, Republicans refused to show up to the negotiating table. And so what ended up happening is the legislation that we have now. So it's very ironic watching the Republicans say for the last 10 years that they want to repeal and replace Obamacare. In reality, the reason why they haven't presented an alternative is because this is the type of legislation that used to be part of the Republican philosophy. At this point, the alternative to the Affordable Care Act, if you don't like the Affordable Care Act, is single payer, is Medicare for all. So I'm very curious to see if Democrats in the House start pushing and reintroducing a single payer bill.
The thing here, Larry, is simple, and it's going to skyrocket. You're going to have rural hospitals shut down. And a lot of these red state MAGA people are going to be crying and moaning because they're going to have loved ones passing away and folks not being able to get care because they chose to vote for these idiots.
Yeah, Roland, this is like what we've seen here, and obviously with the subsidies about to expire, you highlighted red states like Florida in particular. are really dependent on these subsidies. And a lot of people voted for their own demise, which is part of a long history in this country. And Roland, we've talked about in your show the last couple of weeks, folks are getting, notices in the mail that their rates are going to go up dramatically. And what's going to happen is the uninsured rate is going to go up. And you talked about these rural hospitals that'll close. People won't have access. You talk about the disproportionate impact that will have on women who are pregnant. It will likely increase infant and pregnancy mortality rates. And we know particularly how those issues impact Black folks. The other thing is, Roland, is those individuals who won't be able to afford to have insurance anymore, it's going to increase the mortality rate in a lot of these red states who already depend on the federal government disproportionately compared to some of these blue states. And this is going to be a long-term trend. And we're not prepared for the millions of individuals who are going to lose their health insurance, some who are going to file for bankruptcy, and other issues it's going to increase issues relating to mental health and other, financial strains, not only on parents and grandparents, but also children. And there's also going to increase debt ratios in underserved communities throughout the United States.
Look, it is. And so, I mean, I keep saying over and over and over again, Zachary, that sometimes you got to show them better than you can tell them. And these people are going to have to feel real pain before they wake the hell up and go, damn, y'all were not lying. No, we tried to tell you.
Repeatedly. And let me tell you who else needs to feel some damn real pain, Roland Martin. The 8 Senate Democrats and the damn leader, Chuck Schumer. They need to feel a little bit of pain, too. Because let's be honest, let's keep it a buck. If they would have just continued to buckle down and hold the line, we wouldn't be back here. Our Senate Democrats, the Democrats in the House of Representatives under Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, were fighting with all they had to avoid this outcome. They told the line. They educated the American people. They had the support of not only Black America, but the entire country behind them. Polls were in their favor. Americans showed up in record numbers last Tuesday to make their voices heard when we had a blue wave across this country, and we won in places like Georgia and Mississippi that we didn't think that we would win. Only to have 8 members of the Senate under Leader Schumer turn around, betray the American people, betray their party, and then say, we give up, we cave. For whatever reason they had to do that. So they need to feel a bit of pain too, and I think it's incumbent upon us to make sure they feel that pain. Give these people not a moment of rest. Yes, this is absolutely the fault of Republicans. Yes, this is absolutely the cruelty, the harm that they want to inflict. But in this situation, some Democrats have some blame too. Not all Democrats, but some Democrats. And I want them to feel a little bit of pain too, because we, the American people, we are feeling pain. The 42 million people that were going without SNAP benefits, feeling pain. But I want to emphasize the 42 million people that were impacted by SNAP being allocated, that did not force these 8 Democrats to turn cold and give up. It wasn't the healthcare workers and all the people that are being forced to work that aren't getting paid. That did not make them cave. It was the inconvenience of travel and people that have the means of travel and businesses affected by travel that caused them to cave. Let's not let them off the hook either. Make them feel a little bit of pain.
Absolutely. So we'll see where this House debate goes. But again, I think they have the 218 votes. It's going to be very narrow because they only have a 3-vote majority in the House. But we'll keep you all abreast of what's going on there. Going to go to a break. We'll be right back. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat. So they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it. They joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
what's up, everybody? It's Godfrey, the funniest dude on the planet. And you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, after a 7-week wait, Democrat Adelita Grijalva has officially been sworn in as a member of Congress. Grijalva makes history today as Arizona's first Latina congresswoman. She's following in the footsteps of her father, the late Representative Roland Grijalva, who served more than 2 decades in the House before passing away in March. Typically, lawmakers elected in special races are sworn in immediately, even when the House is not in session. However, Speaker Mike Johnson delayed Grijalva's oath, stating that he would have to wait until members return from their break. Well, he actually was doing this because of the Epstein files. Johnson ignored repeated calls from Democrats to let Grijalva take her seat, especially since he had sworn in 2 Republican members earlier this year while the House was not in session for business. Here's what she had to say in her first speech on the House floor.
I really like this lady.
While we celebrate this moment today, our American promise is under serious threat. Basic freedoms are under attack. Healthcare premiums are skyrocketing. Babies are being ripped away from their parents by masked agents. We can and must do better. What is most concerning is not what this administration has done, but what the majority in this body has failed to do. Hold Trump accountable as a co-equal branch of government that we are. It has been 50 days since the people of Arizona's 7th Congressional District elected me to represent them. 50 days that over 800,000 Arizonans have been left without access to the basic services that every constituent deserves. This is an abuse of power. One individual should not be able to unilaterally obstruct the swearing in of a duly elected member of Congress for political reasons. Our democracy only works when everyone has a voice. This includes the millions of people across the country who have experienced violence and exploitation, including Liz Stein and Jessica Michaels, both survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse. They are here in the gallery with us this evening. Thank you for being here. Just this morning, House Democrats released more emails showing that Trump knew more about Epstein's abuses than he previously acknowledged. It's past time for Congress to restore its role as a check and balance on this administration and fight for we, the American people. We need to fight for our immigrant communities and veterans. We need to stand up for our public schools, children, and educators. We need to respect tribal sovereignty in our environment. We need to stand up for LGBTQ+ rights because that's what the American people expect us to do. Fight for them. That is why I will sign the discharge petition right now to release the Epstein files. Justice cannot wait another day. Adelante, mi gente. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. I yield back.
Speaking of the Epstein files, as Congress prepares to vote on the release of the remaining documents Over 23,000 pages have already been published by the Republican-led House Oversight Committee. A lot of that was already released. Democrats on the committee released 3 key email chains sent between 2011 and 2019, which were obtained from Epstein's estate as part of their investigation into the convicted sex offender's case. These emails included changes between Epstein, convicted trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, and writer Michael Wolff. In one email, Epstein claims that Donald Trump spent hours at his home with the victim and knew about the girls, allegedly referencing Mar-a-Lago. The White House is calling this a fake narrative. Virginia Giuffre, the woman named as a victim, insists that Trump was never involved in any wrongdoing. Notably, none of the emails were sent to or received from Trump, and most of these conversations occurred before his presidency. Trump has accused the Democrats of exaggerating the Epstein story to distract from the government shutdown. Well, I mean, Larry, if that was the case, then why did Republicans fight so hard for this information not to be released?
Yeah, we heard Roland. We hear about the White House going full throttle on this issue to make sure, that this is not released. I don't ever remember someone inviting, member of Congress to the White House to discuss something this sensitive, and allegedly had the Attorney General, among other senior cabinet leaders there. They're in full panic mode, and eventually all this information is going to come out one way or the other. And the reality, Roland, is that I think that the issue is that we're forgetting that there are individuals, women who were young ladies who were victims of sexual assault. And that should be the core issue. And anyone with a conscience should want to make sure that anyone who knew or was involved is held responsible. And you can't suggest that you're some kind of Christian or have other religious beliefs and morals and believe otherwise. And I don't care what party affiliation it is when it comes to individuals who are involved. Everyone should be held accountable. Like I said, whether they were involved or they're new. Well, but the White House is doing everything they possibly can to make sure that they throw every kind of conspiracy theory against the wall and see if his supporters believe it. And Roland, unfortunately, I believe a lot of them are.
That's what's cracked me up, Rebecca. That if you just want to insist Trump wasn't named, Trump had no involvement, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then you should be saying, hey, release everything.
Roland, I'm old enough to remember last summer when there were speculations of who was in the Epstein files. And on social media, there were a purported list of names of folks. And I even distinctly remember this current president talking about, the files should be released. So, the tables have definitely turned, especially when members of his government in the spring started to see the files and see the contents of the files. All of a sudden, in April and May, we started to see a slow walking or, maybe these files needs to be heavily redacted. What's going to be interesting, whatever that is released by the House, is we're going to have to pay attention to what has been redacted. We also have to understand that an administration that has been hell-bent on not releasing the information in these files might have had access to these files before they were released. So there are some things we're going to have to take with a grain of salt. But I'm calling all of those trained journalists out there. If you are a journalist, if you have a platform, make sure you're working with reputed professionals to make sure you could comb through what's being released so you can understand how to talk about it. I think this is going to be something that's going to carry the public's attention for a long time coming. And some of the names in those files absolutely will surprise the public.
And these right-wingers, Zachary, they're just, okay, all right. Yeah, again, if y'all think it clears him, go right ahead. But let's remember, Zachary, it was the right who was pushing this stuff. It was a lot of these folks loving them some Trump who were pushing it. And then they got mad when their own MAGA people started stalling.
And they thought the day would never come. They thought the day would never come. I think that they really looked at every single opportunity to make sure the day didn't come, but it's here. The reckoning is around the corner, and the American people are going to see what it really is, and they're going to then have to make some very hard decisions for themselves. The MAGA cult will have to grapple with who they really are as people, as human beings, are you able to stomach standing behind someone who is capable of this type of activity, this type of criminality, this type of behavior, this type of evil? Are you really able to live with yourself and still stand behind this man and who he is, what he's done, and what he stands for? That's where this is going. And I'm tell you right now, I'm damn happy for the day and excited to see it. There hasn't been a lot of good news. Last week was a good week. This week has been a bad week. But right now, the tables are turning, and we may end up on a good note. And I'm excited to see it happen.
All right, a lot of folks are not feeling good right now. This government shutdown has caused a lot of financial distress for millions of people, whether from being laid off, not getting paid, or not receiving SNAP benefits. Folks have suffered in some way. In July, Wallet Hub, a personal finance website, publishes findings on the states with the highest levels of financial distress. The ranking was based on various factors, including bankruptcy rates, average credit scores, and the frequency with which residents search for terms indicating financial trouble, such as debt and loans. According to Wallet Hub, the state facing the highest financial distress, Texas, red state, followed by Florida, red state, followed by Louisiana, red state, followed by Nevada, red state, followed by South Carolina, red state, followed by Oklahoma, red state, North Carolina, red state, Mississippi, red state, Kentucky, red state, Alabama, red state. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on with this, and you understand what we're getting here. And so these same people who, and understand, this distress we're talking about is not solely tied to the government shutdown. This distress is also tied directly, let me say it again, it's tied directly to Trump's economic policies. Now, many of y'all may have seen this idiot's interview with Laura Ingraham on Fox News, where he says how he owns this economy. But also, you have to come to grips with the reality of his role in causing this economic harm. Now he's trying to float out here this idea of, we're going to give everybody $2,000. Yeah, Congress has to pass that. Let's see if they do that to add to the debt. Morgan Harper joins us right now, Director of Policy and Advocacy at the American Economic Liberties Project out of Columbus, Ohio. Morgan, glad to have you here. So, Morgan, do you find it interesting when you see Scott Bassett going on television and Trump, all these different people, and how all of a sudden it's like, yeah, the economy's done, yeah, it's a problem, and how they were lying to themselves, trying to dance out of this, but they cannot deny. Trump keeps lying by saying, oh, everything is going down, price is going down. He's lying.
Yeah, I think that there was this false sense among some, not among us on this show, and certainly not with you, Roland, that there was some grand plan to what these guys were doing, that there was going to be this moment where everything turned, and then we would see the fruits of all of their proclamations about how they were going to bring America back and make the economy stronger than ever. And month by month, we've steadily seen, even as maybe the stock market continues to rise, the reality of what economic life is looking like for a lot of Americans and the vast majority of Americans is telling a very different picture. I mean, I saw something today, the administration citing data from DoorDash to prove that the economy is strong. I don't know if you saw that, Roland, but you have the CEO of, I think by definition, we can all agree is an exploitative company to its workers. They don't even want to claim that they are workers, the independent contractors that they refuse to call workers to get benefits, that they're saying, oh, the basket of goods that people need for breakfast is going down, so the economy must be strong. And we have the White House, that the administration, the national government that is citing this company as proof that their economy is strong. You can't make this stuff up.
I would dare say that the people in those 10 states where they have a lot of economic distress, I would dare say they aren't using DoorDash to deliver food.
Well, or they are, but let's be real. DoorDash is not a career, okay? And even if people are rightly using it to try to get as much money as they can, to try to fill gaps between different jobs that they might have, that is not an economic plan. And the reality of the U.S. economy right now is that we have turned over the reins of this economy to about 7 companies, 7 really large tech companies that tell us that AI is the future and they're going to build the future for us. And what we are seeing on the ground are things like data centers that we as taxpayers pay for, that are a nuisance in communities, that are fueling this supposed great technology that's actually ruining the lives of young people. We're seeing jobs that are being destroyed. I mean, that's another fact that the administration does not want to talk about, is how many layoffs have happened. I think now we're seeing the side of like 1 million layoffs this year, the most layoffs in 20 years in October. And so these are the tale of, I don't even want to say two realities. One is a fantasy land, that they have some kind of idea about how to, or any desire actually, to improve the lives of Americans. And the other is the reality, which is a lot of people, and you're right, before the shutdown, were struggling. And let's be honest, before this administration, struggling. And it really is becoming a bit of a breaking point that we all need to come to grips with, and that demands people of competence and good intentions that are in charge of the government.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know they're lying. And now they're delaying the jobs report again, and now suggesting, it's going to be some time, because they don't want that bad news every month. Oh, and see, what's going to be their excuse now, Morgan, now that the government is going to be reopening, the House is going to vote, it's going to happen. So I can't wait to hear what the excuse is going to be on the first Friday in December.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm pretty skeptical that they're just going to get back to work and I don't doubt the quality of the career staff there, the statisticians that usually put that data out. Whether or not they will be free once back in their jobs to actually do their jobs is a huge question mark. I mean, they've already said, that they don't even want to go back and look at what happened in October. They're just going to keep it moving. So that alone might compromise some of the, the overall aggregate statistics that we're seeing come out of the administration from here, to the extent that we do see them. And look, I mean, like I just said, they're pretty comfortable subbing in data from a private corporation and calling that economic indicators, right? Instead of actually having the comprehensive data that the government at the Bureau of Labor Statistics is used to. And again, I mean, there's just so many indicators. I mean, another one I'll throw out there, that we're starting to see this uptick in subprime borrowers, auto loan delinquencies. I mean, a lot of these, the places that I'm sure we're all familiar with, you go, you finance on the spot, you get a car. The consumers that are using those are now increase in defaults, that some of those companies are going bankrupt. And this is another one of those potentially early signs, leading indicators of real trouble ahead. And so, we have to continue, and I'm going to say it again, it's like the stock market is not the reality of what is going on with the U.S. economy. It's a data point. It is not complete, and we need to continue to be outspoken about what the reality is that's happening on the ground in our communities across the country of what this administration's policies are doing. And really, like I was saying before, what an economy that's been turned over to a lot of very large corporations that are comfortable to destroy jobs rather than create them, what they're causing to.
Well, and not only that, Morgan, now we got these idiots proposing a 50-year mortgage. What? Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting one. The fact that we have somebody in charge of the FHFA that is also compromised in having work, Pulte is who I'm talking about, the guy who supposedly, I guess, pitched Trump directly with this idea of the 50-year mortgage, and just one day at Mar-a-Lago, and then Trump just kind of tweeted it out, and then that became a potential policy. And it's kind of absurd that this is where we find ourselves, because this guy himself is in the home building industry. He has already proven to be pretty corrupt. And so how he could be in charge of this agency that's responsible for financing a lot of the home building, the mortgage industry in this country is I don't even know what we do with that. And so, the fact that he's throwing out there this idea of 50-year mortgage, that you're going to tie people up in this, that it's not going to, a lot of the money that you put into a mortgage at the beginning is towards interest. So it's kind of extending that period and delaying how soon people will get to equity, which then continues to fuel activity in the housing market. I think that's why people had a lot of strong reactions to this, that this is a bad idea, even within the administration, that we're trying to immediately backtrack once the president started promoting this idea from Pulte.
But see, here's the thing here, Morgan. Again, when we talk about what's happening here, and we have to confront the truth, and that is by 2030, 40% of America's housing stock, 5 years from now, is going to be owned by Wall Street. These people do not want folks buying homes. They want people to keep renting and paying higher and higher and higher. And the reality is, by proposing a 50-year mortgage, so that means that, if you're 30, you buy a house, let's say I'm going to pay it off when I'm 80. So all that's going to do is, and the banks are sitting here going, ooh, man, we about to get paid. I mean, I remember that, I guess it was, Morgan, this may have been 2007 or 8. And I remember I had overpaid taxes. And it was like a $25,000 check.
I don't do
yeah,
that.
so I overpaid. Actually, it happened a couple times. I overpaid taxes, got the money back, and I immediately applied it to the house I owned. And I remember my financial advisor was like, "Well, do you want to do that?" Because we were able to write off the interest paid on the house. And I said, well, let's do some math here. I said, in the next 10 years, if I just keep paying on the mortgage, I'm going to be able to write off the interest. But how much am I paying in interest? I said, how about I just pay the house off, and now I own it outright, and all I'm doing every year paying property taxes? That, to me, made a hell of a lot more sense. What it also did, and that's exactly what I did, and it was an absolutely smart play. Now, there are some people out there, Morgan, who say, well, no, debt's good. That's fine. I'm not interested in playing the debt game. But the point there, I paid it off early. So what, I bought it in 99. And so now all of a sudden you're talking about paying it off literally within inside of 10 years. You damn right. No, I'm sorry. I take that. Bought it in 99 and paid it off. I think it was like in 07, 08. But I wasn't interested in paying interest on a house for 30 years. It's just like when I bought a car. I paid for the car in cash because I sat there and said, wait a minute, why am I going to pay interest every month for 4 to 5 years on the car? If you add up the interest you're paying, hell, you're paying for 2 or 3 cars. And that's what's happening with the housing market. But it goes to show you these numbskulls in D.C., all they want to do is empower and make richer big companies.
Well, that I completely agree with. I mean, the only thing I would add on the specific loans that people might be considering, or the 30-year mortgage, whatever, is, part of the idea is a lot of folks, we have set up a system supposedly trying to incentivize people to start a home, get a single-family home, and then continue to be active in the housing market. A lot of people might have a first home that fits the needs of their individual lives, or their, the beginning of their family life with kids, that then it changes over time. You might need more space. So the longer you're locked in to that one mortgage transaction, Roland, you're exactly right. I don't know how much, I'll speak for myself. Life has changed a lot over 10 years. I don't know how much people expect their lives to not change at all over 50 years and think that the needs that they had for housing when they were 30-something, if they're lucky to be able to purchase a home with a mortgage, are going to be the same when they're 80, seems very unlikely to me. And so, but that being said, I mean, having access to these types of financing tools does allow people to get into the home market. But if you are locked into a really long transaction, you kind of lose the ability to have flexibility to then sell, decide to sell earlier, use some of that equity to get into a different size home, et cetera. So it's that 50-year mortgage overall is not a good idea. I think mortgages and the length of them, depending on your situation, can make sense. But most importantly, and the point that you started with, we are not currently seeing a housing market that is working for that beginning family that I described, or an individual that wants access to be able to buy a single family home. That is increasingly out of reach for people for a number of reasons, including that we're starting to see, the corporatization of housing and more folks more companies that are on Wall Street that are starting to buy up. Now, another thing that's happening, and actually Economic Liberties, where I work, is about to put out a paper on this next week. We're starting to see a lot more home building that is like build to rent. So, among these very large home builder companies that are publicly traded on Wall Street, they're not even trying to pretend like they're, creating housing for families to be able to build equity and this will be an asset that'll build wealth for you. They're just like, no, we want you trapped forever. And so we're building homes, single family homes, to only be rental homes. That's the play.
Oh, absolutely. And so I just need people to understand what is going on here. Donald, the tech people, the real estate people, the banking people, all these people, the billionaires who are supporting Donald Trump and raping and pillaging the U.S. economy, they want this pain. Let's be real clear, all right? These farmers, these MAGA farmers who are crying, let me tell y'all, they're going to be buying your land up. It's going to happen. See, so all these people, and I'm telling you, Mark, that's why I said sometimes you do have to let things happen. And what these people are about to experience, they are experiencing an economic calamity, and they fell for, oh my God, when I get in, the sun will always shine. There will be no rain, there'll be no wind, there'll be no cold. It will be perfect conditions at all times. I will solve every problem. I will end every war on day one. I will lower all prices on day one. I will be the savior of the world. Now they're realizing that he's the devil. And what? They're going to blame Joe Biden the next 4 years? They're going to try to pin this on Obama? No, guess so. I was like, you know what? Y'all are about to feel the pain. Congratulations. You did it to yourselves.
Yes, I agree with you, Roland. This is almost what I would describe as like the end game, the acceleration of a lot of trends that were already happening in the economy. So I agree. Trump, his administration, corrupt to its core. I don't know how anyone could deny that at this point. Certainly not working in the best interests of the average American, including a lot of people who voted for them. But I do think we also need to be honest, just coming back to the housing finance point, for example. I mean, a lot of the trends that got us to this highly consolidated housing market where we have, just a few big players in some cases that are getting they're on the stock market trying to appease their shareholders instead of creating those single-family home buying opportunities for the average family and individual, is by policies and deregulation that started under Jimmy Carter, that was continued by Ronald Reagan, that moved into the 90s and became the consensus of both parties. So I agree with you. What we're seeing right now is extreme. But again, a lot of this has been slowly building up over the last 40 years because we have had a lot of federal policy making that is being driven by the interests of Wall Street over Main Street.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just and again, I want people to realize what is happening to our economy. I'm about to go to our panel as well. What is happening to our economy right now is more and more of this economy is frankly driven by paper jobs, really was in the finance sector. And what these people have got to understand is all this talk, Trump's going to bring back manufacturing. No, he's not. In fact, there was more manufacturing created under President Biden than you're seeing under Donald Trump. And to your whole point about AI, all of these people, all AI is just going to solve every world problem. No, it's not. No, it's not. And so, and not only that, these companies are, I mean, you know what, NVIDIA is now $1 trillion, $5 trillion or whatever the hell. They ain't made a profit. So I'm just sort of like, okay. And to your point, everybody's going crazy, the data centers, all this sort of stuff. And I told somebody, we were in Virginia, they were like, well, you know, you're opposed to, I said, no, I never ever said I oppose data centers. What I said was we had better properly vet data centers to make sure that we're not seeing the massive consumption of water. We better vet data centers so we're not going to see utility rates explode in rural America. We may want to vet data centers to make sure that we're clear on the health implications.
Yeah.
Huh?
And urban, not just a rural issue. I mean, take.
Yeah. No. The reason I said rural because what's happening in Texas, Louisiana, and so what's happening is they are specifically targeting rural areas, and there are many politicians in rural America who are like, come for the jobs, but there's a bunch of stuff that also comes with that. And all I said is you better be vetting it and talking to the experts so you don't make a short-term economic decision that could have long-term negative implications on your town, on your county, on your region.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not, well, maybe I am kind of I'm not anti-technology. I think we all have benefited from the development of technology. A lot of these tech companies started out with innovations that were a value add to how we were interacting with each other. But the reality is now we have 7 companies that are driving the central planning of the United States of America, and the government is secondary to what they want. And these data centers are just one example of that on the ground. That I agree with you. I mean, I think the play is trying to get folks in rural, a lot of them are being built in rural areas, but increasingly they depend on the annexing of things like the water supply from cities like Columbus, Ohio. That's going to increase the rates of water here, which is an issue that our city council is talking about just this week. So the issue, from my perspective, is we don't have a plan. The plan is whatever these companies want, and we'll look up in 10 and 20 years and realize, oh, they got exactly what they wanted. We lost everything, and the government was just kind of like on the sidelines unless we kick things into high gear quite quickly and start to all put a lot more pressure on what types of decisions are happening and have like a real government, a real plan about how we are going to have an economy where people are able to work, earn enough money to live, start businesses, build businesses that actually add some value, not just ruin the mental health of young people.
Well, the thing for me is on this whole deal, this is a corrupt administration whose sole purpose is to get richer by crypto and Silicon Valley and all this sort of stuff. So all these people are going to realize by 2029, they're going to look up and realize, man, how much did they rape and pillage this country? And that's exactly what these people have in mind. To the panel, Rebecca, your question for Morgan Harper on what's happening with the American economy.
Okay, Morgan, I'm trying to make sure that I'm fully processing and understanding everything that you just said. So this is what I heard from you, is that with mortgages going to a 50-year term, which means it's a lower monthly premium, which creates more affordability for people to be able to obtain a mortgage. But I'm also seeing that groups like Fannie Mae is going to lower the credit minimum in order to qualify for mortgages. So now what I'm hearing from that is that people who might be less financially stable to be able to afford a long-term mortgage are going to be able to enter into a market, obtain mortgages that are backed by the federal government. And if they default, these companies, maybe predatory, who are giving these mortgages to these people, will still be able to get their money back from the government in the case of a default. So this feels very 2006 to me. Is this what I'm actually hearing? Am I processing what you're saying correctly?
Well, to be clear, I mean, this 50-year mortgage thing just kind of like came up out of nowhere. And so I don't know that we know for certain how it would play out. The proposal kind of assumes, if you want to call it that, but like I said, it was suggested, and it sounds like a pretty random way, that this would somehow be more affordable for the average American through a lower monthly payment. But I think experts are kind of split on this. With, whatever the impact on interest rates is, it might offset whatever, that the decrease in the monthly payment. So it's not totally clear that it would be cheaper. But the point that I was making is that it's going to lock people into these transactions for a longer period of time and limit their ability to potentially, refinance or trade up to try to get into a bigger house, or maybe whatever house you lock this financing in for, you want to downsize at some point before you turn 80, after 50 years of having the mortgage. And so then you're going to be a little less agile to be able to do that. I think what you're describing about, some of the credit risk, that could also be a possible risk here, though. I mean, that is something that is, kind of baked into our system, that the government is backing up a lot of the securitization of loans that are happening through the government-sponsored entities, Fannie and Freddie Mac.
Roland, can I ask a follow-up here?
Zachary. Yep. Go ahead.
Okay, so Morgan, is the better analogy where you went from like 48 to 60 months to 72, now 96-month car loans, and then people keep rolling in some of the negative equity into the next car when they keep upgrading their cars?
I think it is kind of a good analogy. And again, I haven't looked deeply into this 50-year proposal because it hasn't really been something that's been suggested before. But yeah, it's not, even if in the moment it's getting you to something that feels like it's more affordable, if long term it's just locking you into this relationship with this one lender, and then they're able to securitize out of that long relationship with you to get more money out of putting the equity of your transaction on the stock market, well, that is almost always a good deal for big banks and less of a good deal for the average consumer who's taking out that type of loan.
Zachary.
Morgan, it's really mind-blowing, and it's really great information that you're giving us. One thing that's really baffling to me is how, President Trump is using the bully pulpit to push on Americans the concept that there isn't an affordability crisis, that these issues that we know are real aren't real, that we're somehow imagining them, that when we go in the grocery stores, prices aren't higher, that when we're trying to get homes, it's not harder. How can we fight back against the government telling us that we're not in an affordability crisis when in reality we are? Like, what can we do to really help our fellow Americans see the truth behind what we're living with in this Trump economy?
Yeah, I think this is an area where we can use the positive aspect of some of the technology and the firms that we're talking about is to tell our own story. You don't have to wait for the media to decide what you're saying is accurate or important to know. Just kind of like hit the grocery store. I would love to see people in reaction to this DoorDash survey of the American economy and how it's doing, that breakfast is going down, to do their own little basket of goods and let the DoorDash CEO know what's actually happening. Even better, add a layer onto it, how much you make in a week using DoorDash and how much of your expenses that covers. That would be interesting content. I think that would be content that would get the attention of hopefully people's elected officials and eventually trickle up to the president and media who's covering his promotion of these things and kind of like give them fodder for questioning what he's saying. We've got to all recognize that we have a role to be playing here, and we're in a full-on war for the future. And I don't really use that term lightly, but I think that's where we're at. We have one of the most corrupt administrations in history. Not that corruption didn't exist before, but it's extremely blatant with this administration. And they're going to try to get as much out of it as they can while they can, and don't really care about what's left on the other side for the rest of us. So I think this is the time for all of us to consider ourselves really active in this fight and sharing our own story about the reality of what's going on.
Larry.
Yeah, Morgan, I get the feeling all these economic indicators, I'm getting really the vibes we saw in a recession that began during Bush Jr. Term. And let me give an example of what I mean. I saw in the newspaper, Baltimore Banner, a couple weeks ago about this New York-based venture company, EGBE, I believe, that bought all these properties in Baltimore and then defaulted on all the loans. And you talked about, kind of Wall Street, and we talk about Baltimore, the scene, the drop in crime. But then you take it that this company bought all these homes and now defaulted, and the economic impact that's going to have. And I want you to make that connection between what we may see in terms of some, foreclosures and how Wall Street is contributing to this issue.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that company. So was that was like a large property owner in Baltimore? Are they national? Do you know?
Yeah, they're based out of New York, venture capitalists, and they apparently got all these loans and bought all these houses in Baltimore, then defaulted.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, I don't know that specific company, but generally what's happening in the housing market is this connection to Wall Street. I mean, this idea that we just had, like we had before the 1970s and deregulation, the system was very different. That was a situation where you would have a whole different sizes of banks that were lending to builders to produce single-family homes of different sizes, homes that would meet people at different income levels, and that was all financed by the federal government. When we deregulated, we kind of took away that layer of the banking industry that would support a different range of home builders, many of whom were rooted in their local communities to be able to meet the needs of that market. And we turned the housing industry over to Wall Street. And so it's no surprise that by the 90s, then we started to see a lot of the, large home builders were going public throughout that decade. And once you go public, you have to appease your shareholders. And so, part of why we look around and see like, oh, there's this housing gap, we need to, have more supply. Why are people building? Well, the answer is partly because they don't have to. And so you have a really, really limited supply of housing. And then to your point, or the example you're mentioning, then you have folks, okay, well, as the prices of that existing housing stock go up and up and up because there's limited supply, who's able to play in that market? Well, the people that have the most capital. And a lot of times those will be more of these, LLCs and private equity that might be able to then buy up some of these houses in bulk. And their game there is to scale as much as they can to reduce their costs and increase their cash flow. And so if they're not going to make as much money on trying to we'll redo a home and then find the perfect family to buy it so they can build their life. It's like, no, we're gonna redo this home so we can start renting it out to people, try to get fees on top of whatever they're paying for rent and extract as much money out of them as possible as quickly as we can. Now, if some of those companies then decide to start making risky bets with their portfolio of housing, like you say, happening potentially with this group in Baltimore, well, then they go under, and then that just eliminates a whole set of what was, maybe even not that affordable, but at least some significant chunk of a housing market in a particular area that might have been available for people who are renting. And so, the housing market, I think, can sometimes seem, from like a policy or whatever, like very complex. But I think the most important point to take away from our discussion on this front is right now we have a housing market that is dominated by the interests of Wall Street. It doesn't have to be this way. Before the 1970s, we had a much more diverse finance market with different sizes of banks and different types of builders that was creating the different types of housing that actually met the needs of working people throughout this country. We can get back to that, but it is going to require a different type of approach from the government than we've had since we began deregulating in the 1970s.
And listen, to deal with the reality of housing, you're also going to have these cities getting away from this bogus bullshit, Morgan, of these developers who want to build housing tied to anchor stores and restaurants and shops and others, when in reality, all they're looking for are in these condos, if you will, are $500,000, $750,000, $1 million. And we're seeing this all around the country. And I'm always, I go to these cities and I see this stuff and I'm going, who the hell is going to afford living here? You see what happened? All of these people rushed into Nashville and they exploded with housing, all this very high housing in Nashville. guess what? Ain't enough people to put them in there who can afford it. And you're not going to have a country. I'm sorry. I don't care. You can't keep going to these places and starting cost of homes are $400,000 and $500,000 or $750,000 or $1 million. Ain't enough people making that kind of money to live in these places.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that connects to the question about, who can afford to buy up, housing at that level is people that already have a lot of money. It's not, you and me is like working every day and trying to like cobble together savings. So, it kind of reinforces or opens up this lane for, private equity funds, et cetera, to be able to gobble up and build out these portfolios. But I do think it's important to note, the percentage of the overall housing stock throughout the country that's owned by PE firms and these corporate landlords isn't as large. I think it's we have to look at some of these other factors that are playing into why we have limited supply. And I agree with you, Roland. I think one of the things that has prevented us.
First of all, let's be clear. We have limited supply because the 2008 housing foreclosure crisis completely stifled the housing market for a decade. Between 2010 and 2020. We built the fewest amount of housing since the 1930s. And when we built that few number of homes in the 1930s, that's what led to the Federal Housing Authority. Okay? So then you go from 2010 to 2020, and then you go 2020 to present day. So we're now in the second decade where we are building fewer houses than we built since the 1930s. We were building anywhere from you're talking about anywhere from 10 to 14 million houses per decade. Well, that completely changed with that foreclosure crisis. And so, matter of fact, I talk about this so much. Give me 1 second. I want to see if I can, let's see if I can pull this up. So, let's see if I can pull this up. Let's go. All right. Well, that didn't take. Give me 1 second. So, bottom line is I'm looking right here in 1930 to 1939, we built 2.67 million homes. 1940 to 1949, 4.79 million. Then it jumped to 10.08. And then 9.49, 1970 to 79 was 12.37, 1980 to 89 was 12.14, 1990 to 1999 was 12.49, 2000 2009 was 14.56, 2010 to 2019 was 6.9. That was the lowest amount of housing built since 1940 to 1949. And so that's what we're facing. The home foreclosure crisis, what took place, those subprime loans, all that financial chicanery from Wall Street spooked developers. And we're now here we are in 2025, still dealing with an issue that was exacerbated and created in 2008.
Yeah, I agreed with that. The other thing I would note, though, is that after the financial crisis, some of the government's responses to that they gave preferential treatment to larger developers in the form of like tax credit. You're going to love this paper we're putting out, Roland, so I'm going to make sure to send it to you when it comes out next week. But they did favor some of the large developers who were able to withstand the crisis better, and then that further pushed small, medium-sized home builders out of business. And these large developers, responsive to Wall Street, they do not have to build if they don't want to build.
And again, one of the other big mistakes, and we just have to be very honest here, it was a mistake of the Obama administration Bush, then Obama, to bail out the banks and allow them to use that money to fortify their balance sheets. And what did they do? They held onto those homes, Morgan, and they then said, we no longer have distressed properties. So now we're going to hold on to these homes. And then when the real estate market, housing market rebounded, they then began to sell 20 and 25,000 blocks of homes to private equity. And so if you were a husband and a wife and you were looking, you saved your money up and you got your credit straight and you were looking to get your first house, you couldn't compete against private equity. And so we saw this take place in Arizona. We saw this in Texas. We saw this in Georgia. And so now all of a sudden, that also contributed to the problem, because you had people who normally, the cycle of life, who normally should have been making their way from renting into owning, they couldn't compete when the banks unloaded all of those homes to private equity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is a really important conversation for us to be having, especially as we look ahead to the next couple of years. There's going to be, we've already seen the start of election season since last week, but this is one of the areas where I do think it's really important that we're honest about some of the mistakes that were made, so that we can actually start to fix some of these problems. The other thing I would note is, just talking about the interplay between like local government and some of the federal or the national trends that are happening. What we've also seen is, as some local governments, maybe has a strong leader that's trying to put in more, tenant protections or limitations on just how much, how many fees a landlord could charge or whatever, then those landlords that are often operating as these LLCs, the kind of like more regionalized or nationalized housing portfolios, are just packing up shop and moving to the localities where they don't have as many rules in place, right? And so it's kind of this like regulation arbitrage is like, oh, you're trying to tell us what we can and cannot charge people. Well, we just want to get out of the state altogether, and we'll go where we can treat people like shit and get as much money from them as possible. So again, I think that is another reason to call for, more of like a national strategy. But yeah, really, really important to reflect on how we got here.
And again, so I know there are people who are watching who are saying, oh my God, y'all are just going down this path and it's absolutely driving me crazy. But I need people to understand that when we're having this conversation, y'all gotta be prepared for what's about to go down. We are seeing, Morgan mentioned earlier, the massive layoffs. You hear, look, I just got earlier today, Omnicom or whatever the hell, there was an ad agency, IPG, that bought them, they're sitting here laying off some 3,200 people. What AI is going to do, Amazon, what they're about to do. And so all of these people who are claiming AI is going to be the savior of the world, we're going to be talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs. And these are going to be, Morgan, highly educated, some college degree, high school diplomas. People need to understand what's about to go down. And I'm telling you, it's going to be ugly. And these tech tycoons and these billionaires, they don't care. They are operating. Look, these company CEOs, CEO pay has never been at its largest in American history. The gap between the average pay of a worker and the CEO has never been this high. And so folk better buckle up, because what we have right now in Washington, D.C., with this corrupt White House and with Republicans controlling the House and the Senate is, if you are big business, if you are billionaires, you're oligarchs, if you are these type of people, you are in the best position to do whatever you want without any government oversight. Donald Trump is letting all those people, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, hit. They are letting those people walk free. And we are about to see corporate America run amok, because you've got an administration that says y'all can do whatever y'all want. And all that bullshit with Republicans and the American worker, it's lies. They are not standing up for the American worker, and that's a fact. Final comment, Morgan.
Two final points. One, everything that we've just talked about with the housing market is somewhat unique because of how much the government's involved with the housing market, but in some ways not. The financialization of these large housing and home builders is the same dynamic that's happening across the economy, like, United Healthcare, airlines. These companies are as much banks at this point and playing financial trickery than actually like adding or building product or providing a service. I think that's important for all of us to understand. The other point I would make, and ending on a somewhat more positive note, is, there's an alternative path. We have built things before. We can have an economy that's rooted in that. I think none of us have to look very far in our daily lives and see problems or issues that we could apply some skill sets and talent to and improve the lives of everyone and ourselves around us. So let's focus on that. And those are the kinds of plans we need to be putting together when we hopefully get to the next phase of all this.
Yep. Morgan Harper, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Good to see you. Thanks, Roland.
All right, then. Final comment with the panel. Rebecca, I'm telling you, I guarantee you there's somebody there like, okay, man, my eyes are glossing over, this stuff you're talking about. But you're not going to see, and I'm telling you, I spent 6 years at CNN, and if you turn to CNBC, if you turn to Bloomberg, they are not having conversations about this economy, about how it's impacting workers. They are not. Because I need people to understand the financial networks, they treat the stock market like, okay, I'm at the PGA, I'm here in Bermuda for the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. Birdie, eagle, birdie. They don't celebrate bogeys and double bogeys. They want to see basketball scores higher. They want to see more touchdowns in football. They are economic cheerleaders. These networks do not want to bring any real understanding. They are focused on Wall Street. They are focused on CEOs. They're not focused on the people who work for government, who supply their pension fund dollars is what drives Wall Street. They ain't talking about those workers. And so people need to understand what we are about to embark on is a dramatic reshaping of the American economy. And with this nutcase in the White House and with these Republicans controlling Congress, they are going to let corporate interests do whatever they want. There are no restraints, and that is absolutely scary, Rebecca.
Roland, we spent about the last 50 minutes of the show talking about the economy. The reason why that's so important is that over the last few weeks, we've been talking about the government shutdown, the immediate impact to federal government workers. We've been talking about folks across the country who receive SNAP benefits and who haven't been able to use those SNAP benefits since the government shutdown. But while we were all talking about those very pressing issues, and those are very pressing issues, those are also short-term issues. What was happening is these large corporations, these oligarchs, were having conversations about trillion-dollar evaluations of their companies. I just want that to sink in for people. I remember 20 years ago, the idea of being a millionaire, having $1 million liquid cash in the bank was a very big deal. That same $1 million of cash, if you're fortunate or lucky enough to have that in your savings, it doesn't go very far now. Just the scale, like you talked about, by 2030, when we're looking at all of these oligarchs, how they are literally carving up the American economy, and they're taking taxpayers' dollars, and they're figuring out how they get to spend it, how their companies could be subsidized. It's a completely different game that's being played here. In fact, the last thing I want to say here, especially when we're talking about the housing market and we think about some of these rules that are changing, there are VCs, venture capitalist firms that are buying 500,000 doors, 1 million doors, and they're buying them not just in urban corridors, but also in rural areas. When you ask your relatives or friends, or if you yourself live in a rural area, those small homes, those 1 or 2 bedroom apartments now, those are also skyrocketing in prices. It's not just cities like Washington, D.C. or Chicago or L.A. or New York that has a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 a month a 2-bedroom or even 1 bedroom. That's also happening in rural areas where things are going $1,500, $2,000, $2,500. In essence, what we are seeing is that Americans are being boxed out of the American economy.
Well, there were a lot of corporate people, Larry, who did not like Lena Khan when she was over the Federal Trade Commission. They couldn't stand her. They couldn't, because she was blocking mergers. And I'm telling you right now, you take, listen, the Trump people okayed the Paramount acquisition by Skydance. And now Paramount is talking about, or they've submitted several offers to buy Warner Discovery. Well, guess what? The film industry in Georgia has completely evaporated. I mean, it has been, it estimates some 20, 30,000 jobs lost. Now you have the Department of Justice of California said, hey, they're going to be investigating this Warner Discovery thing because it's going to lead to more jobs. I need people to understand, when you have mergers and acquisitions and when you have monopolies, that means people are going to get laid off. And they hated Lena Khan because she didn't approve the JetBlue merger with Spirit. She didn't approve several others, and they hated her for that. But her whole deal was, this is going to lead to lack of competition and massive job loss. And so folk got to understand what's happening before our very eyes.
Yeah, Roland, we're living in a period where they're robbing from the poor and giving to the rich. Rebecca called them oligarchs, and I mean that term. It really describes what we're experiencing. Mark Zuckerberg and these Bezos and these ultra rich billion, soon to be in the case of some trillionaires. And the United States is getting, the average United States citizen is getting robbed blind. And we've got 3 more years of this. The most troubling part is a lot of American working class, middle class folks, there are far too many of them, voted for this. And the economic despair that this country is going to experience between, we talked about Affordable Care Act subsidies, the dramatic increase in the unemployment rate, particularly we talk about, certainly we see with the black community, what is 7.4%, whatever it is right now. In addition to that, the number of bankruptcies. And then, I shared the story. I talked about what happened with this venture capitalist firm, which Rebecca, talked about that in terms of what they're doing. They're robbing, they're undermining what the American dream is, and they're robbing us blind. And the administration doesn't care. Throw me $1 million for the ballroom, or come give me a gold cup with my name on it, or a crown, and I'll bless you and tell you to go on and continue to rob the poor folks. And I just don't, Americans don't know the level of despair we're going to experience over the next couple of years. We're already in a recession. I hear this, let's talk the last couple of weeks of we're getting there, but we're already in a recession.
Well, Zachary, here's a perfect example. This is just understanding where we're going. You take a McKinsey Scott. McKinsey Scott has donated the last 5 years close to $700 million just to HBCUs. Yet if you look at the giving, of Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they got more money than her. Don't come close. Now, granted, she's Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. I was reading a story how Warren Buffett, there was a giving pledge where he agreed to give 99% of his wealth away before he passed away. Well, then, so I saw a story and it said, it was like, I think it said 23 people agreed to it or something like that, but only 9 are continuing with it. So why am I stating that? Because what we're now facing, let's make more. And to Rebecca's point, we're in this thing where it's, no, I need more. And so there's a larger concentration of America's wealth in the hands of the richest of the rich. And the only way they can make more is if everybody else makes less. That's the only way. And they don't care. Because now it's about, hey, I need a bigger yacht. No, I'm sorry. I'm Jeff Bezos. I need a second yacht to follow my large yacht because I need the second yacht to carry the stuff on it that we can't fit on the large yacht. And it's my private plane. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and it's actually not about people. And I'm telling you, for the people who are sitting here, all of these people who thought Trump is their savior, the Democrats have forgotten the working class, the Democrats. I'm like, oh, y'all are about to see these rich folks get more wealth than they could have thought about in the next 3 years. It's going to be ugly. And it's a whole bunch of MAGA voting people who are going to make you be crying, oh my God, what happened? And all we're going to do is, we tried to tell you.
It is ugly. It's going to get a lot ugly. It's going to be as ugly as J.D. Vance after a weekend with Peter Thiel. Speaking of the filthy rich and the filthy people in general. Roland, you brought up and mentioned earlier Lena Khan, and it's so crazy that you brought her up because I was reading about her today and the work that she is now doing with Zohran Mamdani's mayoral transition team. And it's really great to see people who are in regards really focused on progressive economic policies being kept into the spotlight to do the work. You talked about Jeff Bezos and you talked about Elon Musk and how they're not giving. Roland, they're giving. They're giving. They're giving to Donald Trump. They're giving to the former East Wing of the White House that's now being turned into some kind of ballroom and maybe some kind of escape bunker. Like they're giving. They're just not giving to the American people. So huge shout out to Mackenzie Scott. So thankful for the work she's doing to stand in the gaps as our HBCUs are consistently losing funding, as the American people, the American worker are consistently being hurt by these policies. And yeah, this is absolutely the time frame when the American billionaires are moving to gain more money and gain more wealth by the policies being put in place by the Trump administration. But you know what? That's our fault. That's your fault. That's my fault. That's the viewer's fault, because we're the ones making the money. They are giving us less. They're working us more. And we have the onus and the responsibility to stop this lies with us. We have to fight back. That's why during the upcoming economic blackout, we got to fucking black out. We've got to black out. No shopping, no buying. Crush the sales for Black Friday. We have to hit Amazon where it hurts in the same way that we hit Target where it hurts. We got to hit Sephora where it hurts because they want to mock us. We have to do our part as the people to fight back with every means possible. And that's what I'm all about, what's coming this month of the boycott and what will happen afterwards. Because yeah, the government's going to continue to give them breaks. The government's going to continue to help them get rich. But we have the economic power to hold back and to stop it. And we have to exercise it.
All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We come back. A federal judge has something to say to ICE for illegally arresting Americans. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, the conversation we're having here ain't been held elsewhere, and so this is the best place for you to get this kind of information. So do us a favor, support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. Your dollars make it possible for us to do the work that we do, and so we certainly appreciate that. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here in the bottom left-hand corner. You can use that for credit cards as well. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo's RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. Back in a moment.
In this country right now, you have people get up in the morning, and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power. That's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, and higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist. There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around black women's bodies, even black people, that we experience painless, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Lil Thompson with winwithblackmen.org. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
A federal judge has ordered the release of hundreds of people swept up in the controversial immigration crackdown in Illinois. U.S. District Judge Jeffrey Cummings says more than 600 people arrested under Operation Midway Blitz must be granted bond by noon on November 21st. Attorneys for the plaintiffs say the government detained more than 3,000 people between June and October during the ICE-led operation. Cummings ordered the Department of Justice to review all remaining arrests and have a list by November 19th. A spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security says ICE operations in the Chicago area are expected to continue. Now, keep in mind, the head of the Border Patrol was slapped down by a federal judge who said they lied to the court. They lied about their reasoning for tossing tear gas. What we are seeing, without a doubt, Zachary, we are seeing these thugs, and we said this before the election, and Donald Trump said himself that they were going to let law enforcement do whatever the hell they want to, and that's what we're seeing. He's now sending federal law enforcement into Charlotte. He's expanding this. He is saying to these people, y'all can do whatever y'all want, when y'all want. You don't have to worry about any repercussions. I got you.
And it makes no sense that these people that have been given extensive powers, extensive funding, are allowed to violate the civil liberties of Americans. And it is going to be a true test of the courts, who have continuously kowtowed to Donald Trump, who have continuously given in to every single whim, wish, and demand. If they're going to blatantly disobey the law as American citizens sue, as American citizens raise their voices, American citizens continue to fight back against the abuses that we and our fellow Americans are facing at the hands of ICE and the whole entire detention process. I'm amazed that this has been able to go on as far as it has, and that there are not as many judges, like as what we're seeing in Chicago, willing to stand up and willing to do what is right. It's going to make it all the way to the Supreme Court, and I'm really waiting for that day to see how they're going to rule, because it's really going to let us know the truth. Like that's like the finest line, the bottom line. If they're not willing to protect the blatant abuses of the everyday people, then we really do not have any hope.
Larry, pure and simple. These people, their behavior is shocking, stunning, it's thuggish, it's despicable, and that all describes Donald Trump.
Yeah, this whole situation with ICE is actually, Roland, was quite predictable if you understand history of authoritarianism throughout the world. This is just one step in the many when you have individuals controlled by the government, wearing masks, grabbing whoever they want without any repercussion and disappearing them. And in the case in this administration, sending them to parts of the world where they only speak the same language. And so this will increasingly happen, Roland, unless Americans stand up, and it just not at the ballot box. You can't, if we don't stand steadfast now, then the doors will really fly off the hinges, and we're going to be in serious trouble. We talk about, historically in terms of disappearing people, and here in the United States, these facilities they're being placed in, we're hearing that the conditions are deplorable. People aren't getting their medication, et cetera. But ultimately, not only in terms of authoritarianism, but if you understand how white supremacy works here in the United States historically and throughout the world, then all of this makes sense because it's all rooted in this. And for those other groups that voted a few months ago and thought, and you hear them now, I never thought it was me. That gets to my point about white supremacy and also anti-blackness in the United States, that we have to pay for the mistakes other people have made based on the fact that they thought that none of these troubles would knock on their door.
Yeah, I mean, and they are letting them run amok, and he is treating federal law enforcement like it's his personal security force, Rebecca. Exactly what we told people was going to happen.
We've had presidents who were career politicians. We've had presidents who were former military officials. We even had presidents who were slavers. Currently, we have a president who is a mobster. We have a president who does criminal activity using even as an elected official. But here's the thing that folks really need to pay attention to. Is last week, Steve Bannon told a crowd of people that if this president's administration doesn't maintain power and keep power in 2026 and 2028, all of them, including Steve Bannon, are going to prison. And guess what? The reason why he said that is because he understands the criminal activity that they are now associated with. Look, I'm an attorney, but I'm no one's attorney who is watching this broadcast. I will say for education purposes is that if you are at work and you're doing criminal activity, you still could be held liable, criminally liable for that criminal activity. Don't let this president confuse you or fool you. You can go to prison if you are committing felonies and if you are breaking the law. Look, under every regime that we've seen where they have been engaged in criminal activity, there were Nuremberg trials. There was an accounting for what happened. And so people have to understand this. It may be sweet right now, but it won't always be sweet. And so if you are involved in an administration that is doing things that may not be on the right side of the law, you're really going to have to think about the personal consequences in your future.
Well, listen, these people are showing us who they are. And I just hope people understand that that these ICE officers, first of all, let's be real clear. And this is the other thing that jumps out, Larry. We don't even know who the hell these people are. We don't know if they are oath keepers. We don't know if they are Proud Boys. We don't know if they're bounty hunters. We have no idea who the hell these people are masquerading as law enforcement.
Yeah, Roland, this is point you made is a really important one. We can go back to history of law, look at law enforcement and how many in towns and cities throughout the country decades ago were members of the KKK, right? We have that history. And we've seen these recruitment events that happen throughout the country. And I've seen some of these interviews with some of these people and some of the things they have to say why they want to be ICE agents are troubling. So we don't even know, and we know this vetting process to hire new people to bring in to ICE are questionable at best. And Roland, we know that U.S. military from research we know, and also from various law enforcement agencies, that it has a tendency to attract a certain kind of person. And that's why you see many of these ICE agents behind these masks gleefully telling people that they don't mind infringing on their constitutional right because you can't see their faces. They can't be held accountable, and they know that no one from the administration is going to do anything about it. That's why you see this level of brutality.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me that I think is most bothersome, here's accurate. We don't know who the hell these people are. There's no level of accountability, and Kristi Noem doesn't give a damn. Her boyfriend Corey Lewandowski doesn't care. They're doing the bidding of Trump, and so we don't even know if these people are actually certified, approved law enforcement. We don't know. And they don't care in this whole deal, oh, no, they're going to be doxxed, whatever. No, they don't want us to know who these people are because they know these people are not actual law enforcement.
And it harkens back to so many historical wrongs that have been done in the past. It harkens back to, it goes, look, this is very Ku Klux Klanish. Let's just keep it plain and let me make it plain and simple. There was a reason why Klansmen wore hoods to protect their identity. So as they terrorized black people in the South and all across this country. And unfortunately, we have now legitimized terror. We have legitimized domestic terrorists, and we have made domestic terrorists part of the government's effort to enforce its laws. And people don't want to say that. People don't make it plain, but it's clear. Why are you hiding in plain sight if what you're doing is above board, if what you're doing is right, if what you're doing is in accordance with actual laws? You wouldn't be. You'll be proud of the position. There's no job I've ever had that I wasn't proud to have. From bagging groceries, sorting produce, whatever it was, I was proud of that job. But now we have an entire group of people, a group of law enforcement officers with the power of the American government invested within them who are hiding every single day, angry when their masks are pulled down, angry when they're recorded because they're afraid of being doxxed, because they know at their heart that what they're doing is fucked up and wrong.
Well, that is certainly the case. All right, folks, hold tight 1 second. We'll be right back with our Tech Talk segment. Can AI actually find you a mate? My next guest says yes. We'll see. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. The United States is the most dangerous place for a woman to give birth among all industrialized nations on the planet. Think about that for a second. That's not all. Black women are 3 times more likely to die in this country during childbirth than white women.
These healthcare systems are inherently racist. There are a lot of white supremacist ideas and mythologies around black women, black women's bodies, even black people that we experience painless, right?
Activist, organizer, and fearless freedom fighter Monifa Akinwole Bandele from Moms Rising joins us and tells us this shocking phenomenon, like so much else, is rooted in unadulterated racism. And that's just one of her fights. Monifa Bandele on the next Black Table here on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Lavelle Crawford. I ain't wearing a bow tie today because I wanted to breathe. And you're watching
Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Millions of black professionals are actively seeking meaningful relationships, yet they seem to be facing difficulty in finding partners who are serious about commitment. Well, in response, one black entrepreneur has combined dating with artificial intelligence to create a platform designed to match individuals focused on marriage. Love Upfront is the first healing-first AI-empowered dating app that prioritizes deep connections over superficial aspects of dating by eliminating the need to swipe. John Graham, the founder and CEO of Upfront, joins us from Dallas. John, glad to have you on the show. Okay, so when you say eliminating the need to swipe, what does that even mean?
That's right. We've eliminated swiping. Instead of putting people into proximity or even the position to endlessly swipe off surface level aesthetics and superficiality, we are algorithmically matching our members based on their needs, not only their preferences, but ultimately their readiness and relationship readiness and what they need to heal through. And ultimately what's ideal for them to be in a long-term, healthy, and sustainable relationship.
Okay, so when you say what they need to heal through,
that's right.
Okay, what is that?
Yeah, I'll back you up. So we are approaching this, number one, as a community health crisis. Fact of the matter is we have been in position as the highest marital rate in the country between 1866 and 1978. Between 78 and today, we are now the least married, hovering around 30%. That is not...
Okay, first of all, when you say we, you mean African Americans?
I mean black folks in America.
Okay, got it.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Go ahead.
Right. So then you factor in, all of the concerted efforts to break up the black family over the past 60 years, whether that's social engineering, whether that's policy. And then you factor in the 600 years of epigenetic trauma that we still have yet to heal through. There's a lot of factors working against successful and healthy relationships in our community. That being the case, we are cognizant that a lot of the derailers of healthy relationship today are because people have not healed through, whether it be childhood trauma, environmental traumas, relational, or even professional traumas. And then they're expected to be put into a dating market, pick people that look pleasing to the eye, and hope that their brokenness doesn't meet somebody else's brokenness, and then expect a healing outcome. So we start with healing first. Our AI has been trained in 8 different psychological frameworks of black psychology, black history, and cultural nuance. And Langston and Zora are the guides and companions that we've trained to now usher you through a 30-day healing/coaching journey before you ever get access to potential connections or matches. And that's in our healing district.
Okay, so you mentioned Langston and Zora. So does your algorithm or your AI model actually require the folk to actually read their stuff? I'll curious because I remember you mentioned the culture there. I mean, so let's say if you're somebody you care about black history and black culture, does your models allow that if there's somebody, they might be cute but they ain't got no historical understanding, are they kicked out?
They are not. We do not require them to read the works of Langston and Zora per se. But those things that are important to our members, right? If, history, if our culture, our impact, our community legacy and things of that nature, those are part of their profile. And as you engage with Langston, just like we're having a conversation, Roland, you're having a conversation with your AI guide. And they're learning what's important to you, right? What are your visions and aspirations for the future? Family. If you're divorced and getting back into the marketplace, as it were, all of these things are factored in addition to your professional goals, educational attainment, a whole host of things. In fact, it's a comprehensive onboarding process to really get to know who you are and then tailor your coaching/healing journey to your needs. In fact, no 2 users will have the same experience based on their own individual assessment outcomes.
Okay. All right. Well, I know our panel got some questions, so let's see here. All right. Rebecca, you first.
So basically, your app forces people to do therapy. And then once they do therapy and they're in their healed versions, then it allows them to date.
Well, I wouldn't say forces. We also are very clear that this is not therapy, right? We have trained our LLMs in psychological frameworks, but by no means are they therapists. What they do offer is coaching and guidance and content that is related to the frameworks, whether it be everything from communication to conflict resolution, emotional intelligence, and accessibility, and so forth. And then giving them opportunities to journal, to reflect on content that we're providing, articles, podcasts that we've created, and so forth. However, our Langston and Zora are trained also to identify where there might be a need to escalate you to a therapist, in which case we partner very closely with the Black Girl Doctor. Shouts out to Dr. Taisha Caldwell-Harvey and her collective of licensed psychologists and mental health and wellness and relationship coaches. So we are not providing therapy per se, but we are providing access to coaching, guidance, and an off-ramp to therapy should it be needed or desired.
So would this app snatch the microphones from all the Red Pill podcast people? That might do wonders to improve dating in 2025.
Now, Sister Rebecca, we can only solve so much. We are not snatching mics, but what we are offering in this space for brothers to become better brothers, right? Aspiring spouses to become the best versions of themselves for a long-term, healthy, and sustainable relationship. Additionally, to that point, we're bringing in community. We have several districts. Our healing district is that first that we've talked about. Our connection district is where you get algorithmically matched and can engage with people who have gone through the 30-day process. And then we have a mentorship district where we're bringing in married couples who've been married for 7+ years or more to be that bridge between the aspiring spouse and those who are doing marriage successfully. Fact of the matter is we don't have that village as we used to, as it were, models for what successful and healthy relationships look like. So us married folks have to stop gatekeeping these insights and be a bridge to those who are seeking to get to where we are. Additionally, a wedding district where we have an economy of Black wedding vendors for those who have found their person. And then lastly, we have our legacy district, in which case you've done the thing, you're married, you're successfully building. This is where you secure your generational wealth and transfer. So everything from financial literacy, wealth management planning, to life insurance, estate planning, family office services, and more.
All right, Zachary, you're up.
Look, let me tell you something right here. I'm like Damon John, a shark, but I don't have no money. And I can see right off the bat, this is a phenomenal idea and an amazing concept, and I'm loving everything about it. How can people find out more? Are we ready to download right now in the App Store? Can we jump on right now, fill out our profile? Like, how do we get more information?
First, I received that energy, brother. I appreciate you. Yes, you can certainly visit Upfront.Love. Where we are, we're currently in beta. So we have about 1,000 of our members who were early access in the app as we speak. Right now, you would sign up for our wait list, in which case you get first notification when we are ready to launch, which is at the top of the year. So in January, it will be available for all on Apple as well as Android.
Mr. Graham, I want to emphasize and to make a recommendation that once you're ready to fully launch, now you're out there, that you reach out to some prominent single Black influencers and content creators, because, you know, I think that that's just a great way of marketing the product, and they have the voice of the people, just like Roland. And again, too, like, this is a great place to bring the platform and build into your budget, your advertising dollars to put on the Black Star Network, because I'm seeing the comments, people saying things like this is really great, and it's really needed in our community, both the therapy, the marketplaces so that we can buy Black, and then the service that brings us all together. Kudos to you and a great concept.
Thank you so much, and absolutely great advice for sure. And we look forward to advertising on the Black Star Network. Absolutely.
Larry.
Yeah, so a very interesting concept. So my question, and look, I'm a researcher, so I need to know more about your collecting data, information, data points, and I'm curious about how that information is being secured, and also the disclaimers that people have to sign at some point, and what you're considering about sharing that information with other entities down the line.
Yeah, excellent question. So data privacy and security are paramount for us. We certainly have our privacy policies, terms of service, AI and ethics policies right there for all to view on our website. Fact of the matter is we aren't sharing your information. We are more concerned with your progress and relationship readiness than making money off of your data, right? What we do use that data to do, which is all stored at rest and leveraged internally, is tailor your experience to ensure that you are getting what you need to remove the barriers and at least have the tools to be in a successful relationship.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Again, John, where can people right now, they want to try out Upfront, where do they go?
Yep. So again, visit upfront.love. That's upfront.love. Or you can jump on any of our socials, IG, TikTok, YouTube, at Just Be Upfront. Again, we are taking wait lists, which is growing every day. And brothers, this is a place for you to really lean into your full expression of power. Healing is not a weakness. It is a superpower. And we absolutely need us as brothers to step up to bring our families back into prominence once again. So upfront.love. And we look forward to seeing more of us jumping on this rather than these other apps out here which aren't getting it done.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. And I see all your paraphernalia there. So I wore my Alpha Life member shirt on the right day. I was going to wear something else, but I wore on the right day. So 06, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
06, Fred. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a bunch. See, that's for them Sigmas and Omegas in the control room. See what happens when you're an Alpha? I'm just saying. All right, y'all. We come back. Share a little bit today's pro-am at the Butterfield Bermuda Championship here in Bermuda. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it. They joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
If in this country right now, you have people get up in the morning and the only thing they can think about is how many people they can hurt, and they got the power, that's the time for mourning.
For better or worse, what makes America special, it's that legal system that's supposed to protect minorities from the tyranny of the majority.
We are at a point of a moral emergency. We must raise a voice of outrage. We must raise a voice of compassion. And we must raise a voice of unity.
We are not in a crisis of party versus party. We are in a crisis of civilization, a human rights crisis, and a crisis of democracy itself. And guess what? You've been chosen to make sure that those that would destroy, those that would hate, don't have the final say, and they don't ultimately win.
This week on the other side of change.
Book bans, anti-intellectualism, and Trump's continued war on wisdom.
This is a coordinated backlash to progress. At the end of the day, conservatives realized that they couldn't win a debate on facts. They started using our language against us, right? Remember when we were all woke and the woke movement and all that kind of stuff? Now everything is anti-woke, right? When we were talking about including diversity, equity, inclusion, higher education, now it's anti-DEI. All this are efforts to suppress the truth because truth empowers people.
You're watching The Other Side of Change only on the Black Star Network.
Hey, I'm Mark Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League, and I'm watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, as I said, since Monday, I've been here in Bermuda at the Butterfield Bermuda Championship. The tournament starts tomorrow. Tee off 7 a.m. My man Cameron Champ, Texas A&M graduate, is in that first group. So, man, Cameron, damn, couldn't be like that 11 o'clock group. But I'll be out there to check them out. Today, at the Pro-Am, we had the opportunity to play with a couple of professional golfers. It was a fabulous, fabulous time playing with them. Now, before we started, so we roll up there, and they were preparing these oven pizzas, and the brother happened to be an alpha. He's from Gary, Indiana. Gary Johnson, and he was out there with his daughter, and so I had a chance to chat with him. Check this out. All right, so Amani, just tell folks who you are.
Amani Pete's owner of Amani's Cookie Company in Bermuda. I ship worldwide, 47 countries, 19 locations, 163 flavors of cookies. I also make cupcakes, cakes, cheesecakes, and brownies. I started this business when I was 16 years old, and I am #baking with autism.
And you said the only autistic entrepreneur? That what you said?
In this country and in black skin, yes.
In here. Okay. All right, and how's it going?
Going great.
All right, then. These are your products right here.
Decadent chocolate chip and chocolate toffee cookies.
All right, then. I grabbed the decadent chocolate, so.
What were your thoughts on that?
We haven't eaten it yet. Haven't eaten it yet.
Oh.
So, we'll ask the pro what he thinks.
Yeah.
How's the cookie?
Yeah.
How's the cookie?
Very good.
All right.
I'm gonna grab another one.
Yeah, I can tell you're enjoying it. All right, folks, if y'all want more information, here's a QR code. Baking with Autism. All right. All right, folks. So as we were playing, they had a number of vendors there who were out there. A system who makes lemonade, and a bunch of different, a popsicle company. But I ran across this young brother. He's an autistic man, young man. He was there with his dad. We pulled up. His dad heard my voice and recognized me. And check this out. He's a successful entrepreneur with his own baking company.
Gary, Indiana. Okay. Jackson. Yep. That's my last name too. Oh, that's even better. Yeah.
Got it all fired up?
Yes. What's going on, brother? Martin.
All good.
Right. Good to see you. Pleasant surprise.
Oh, yeah, this is yours for Papa.
So you got a Gary, Indiana?
Gary, Indiana. Yes, indeed. I've been here 22 years.
Ah.
Yeah, my wife is Bermudian.
Okay.
Oh, Jackson, you guys didn't get to go. Oh, you like it? Baby.
What makes you something work from the spaghetti? I don't know exactly.
All right, so I've been meeting some great folks here, so I'm going to have a lot more stories to share with you tomorrow right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered from Bermuda. Let me thank Zachary, Rebecca, and Larry for being on today's panel. Thank you so very much. I appreciate y'all being on today's show. Thanks a bunch. Hey, folks, don't forget, we have conversations that other people are not having. We have factual base conversations, great experts, people who know what they're talking about, and we want to do more of this. Your support is absolutely important for us to do so. So please join our Bring the Funk fan club. If you want to join us, please do so by going to using our various ways to contribute. Of course, you want to do it via Cash App. Use a Stripe QR code. You see it right here in the bottom left-hand corner. This is also for credit cards. That same QR code. Go to PayPal, R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo's RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Checks in money order. Make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag. You can get that by going to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Shopblackstarnetwork.com. Let me say it again, shopblackstarnetwork.com. We got all the goodies, y'all. We got our T-shirts, our hats, our mugs, man, all that good stuff right there on the website. And so I want y'all to check it out. Again, we've got some amazing stuff. Also, support the black-owned products. Support these black-owned companies. You see their products. All these products you see on my desk there, these are black-owned companies, man. You talk about some fantastic stuff. And so we want y'all to support those companies. These companies are black-owned companies. They do crossword puzzles, backpacks. We got skincare. We got, man, all sorts of stuff. And, again, it's some really, really great stuff that we have there. And so we want y'all to support those black-owned companies. You got, of course, birthdays coming up. You got today, my nephew Chris is his birthday. Today, his 18th birthday, man. I let man turn 18. But again, you got birthdays that you can actually, gifts that you can actually give. You got that. I mean, you've got all sorts of stuff you can give. Christmas is coming up, and so again, we want you to support these black